Dear Mr. President, I have no expectations that you will actually read, let alone respond to this letter. In all honesty, I write it for another audience, my grandchildren. One day they will read this letter and know that I wrote to share my concerns about our country and the threat to our freedoms. Mr. President, you took office during a highly tumultuous time, and I applaud your efforts and the work you have done to put us on a sustainable road to recovery. But as serious as the pandemic is, Mr. President, there is even a greater threat looming, and that is the fate of our democracy. If we do not hasten our actions and work as if our very existence depend on it, your legacy will not be the one who led us through a global health crisis, but the one who was on guard when American democracy died. I voted for you, but it was not a vote for you, it was a vote against fascism. I trusted that you would act with the necessary sense of urgency to protect everyone, especially historically marginalized people, from those who clearly want to see the United States turned into a one religion, one party, totalitarian society. During your campaign, you seemed to understand this. You called out Trump. You said you were for police reform. There was discussion about elimination of the filibuster and protection of voting rights. Mr. President, you have been championed as the one person who could unite the divide along party lines to get things done. But we have watched in horror as no significant changes have come from the legislative and executive branches that would protect us from extremist Christian factions. Meanwhile, state legislators are chipping away at our rights that spiral us back to a time when only the white Christian male was ensured a safe and civil existence. We must act with a greater sense of urgency than those who would bring fascism to America. Your low approval ratings are reflective of a nation that voted for you, yet you do not appear to be listening to. A nation that is slowly being stripped of its rights to live and exist freely. I began this letter by saying that I have no expectations that you will respond to or even read it. But if by some chance you do, please know that it is with the utmost respect that I say this. Please act now. Act as if our lives depend on it, because they do. For a time such as this, you were called to the highest office of our country. You willingly stepped into this role. You promised that you would call out the lies. You promised voting rights would be protected. You promised police reform. And you promised that you would find a way to get the job done. With all due respect, sir, get the job done now before it is too late. Your legacy depends on it. My grandchildren depend on it. Our nation's grandchildren depend on it. This is not radical. Doing what must be done to protect freedom and equality is sacred.